Welcome to the Power Couples Toolbox, hosted by Nathan and Lacey Bird. Seeing the high rate of divorce and the different ways relationships are under attack today, the Toolbox has created a network where relevant information can be accessed, communities can be formed, and transformation can take place.
It is our goal to supply you with valuable tools and resources to help you and your relationship thrive and to connect you with other power couples around the world.
The Power Couple Toolbox is your marriage resource center, so join us for this next episode. Welcome to the Power Couple Toolbox. My name is Nathan Bird, and I'm here with Lacey Bird, the powerhouse, who I'm excited to introduce because we've got another really good podcast lined up for you guys today. It is about interpersonal conflict in your relationships and some of the main causes. Listen, I know you guys out there have experienced conflict in every scenario, in every way possible. We all have. It's just all in how we take those specific circumstances and experiences, and do we let them keep us down, or do we use them as fuel to learn and to grow from? So, what do we got for them today, Lacey?
Yeah, so our goal of this podcast is to just share with you and bring to light some of the root causes of interpersonal conflict, which is not to be confused with intrapersonal conflict, which is conflict within yourself. So,
Can I pause you for a second? You sounded so smart. Like,
I
it was just
am
like,
smart.
oh yeah, you are going to school for your doctorate in
Genius.
behavioral psychology. Everybody out there,
Genius.
did you guys know Lacey's going to school right now for behavioral psychology?
Did you know that Einstein had a granddaughter named Lacey? Just kidding.
No.
It's me.
Oh, okay. I just
It was a joke
Oh my
that got
God.
too real.
All right, sorry guys.
Anyways, interpersonal conflict is when there are two parties engaged in conflict versus, say, you just have some beef with somebody or something, or you're offended and it's within yourself. That's intrapersonal. So, anyways, our goal is to bring to light some of the root causes, because one of the things in relationship that we see a lot of that we want to kind of debunk is that the person you're with is not the wrong person, right? And it's a matter of you got married for a reason, you're together for a reason, and it's a matter of even sometimes it feels like the shoe just doesn't fit, getting to that place of oneness, connectedness, and there are a lot of problems that we face that can be resolved, and a lot of that comes from understanding, and we have experienced that very much firsthand of bringing light to certain things, understanding the root causes of different things, and being able to address our issues head on. So conflict is one of those, and today we're going to be talking about some of the causes of conflict.
Yeah, let's take a step back real quick and just to say, before you even engage into any conflict or any scenario that's going to be difficult, I would say to have proper training and expectations before you enter into that, so it creates a fertile ground to learn and understand what the other person is going through. And I believe that if you can enter into the conversation not having not having this fuel to your fire to have a disagreement with somebody before you even get into a conversation that may be a conflict, it's really important. So it's really just about setting that foundation right off the bat, you know?
Absolutely.
You agree, right?
Absolutely. So the first issue that you guys have probably all seen come up before is dealing with communication problems. So, number one, and kind of one of the things that we have found work really well for us, and this has taken years to kind of come to this place of understanding how to properly communicate, because a lot of us, and let's be honest, especially if you're like under 40, um, didn't necessarily witness or experience our parents properly handling conflict. So, a common one is things just being stuffed under the rug, being kept away from the kids, being in there like dealing with their conflict that way. Another one is, maybe waiting till they become very explosive And so that affects how we approach communication, right? Maybe we're very gun shy to bring certain things up because we're afraid of the other person's reaction. But one of the things that we've found to become really helpful is number one, you have to be able to fully understand yourself. If you're communicating things to the other person or you're just reacting off of each other and you're just saying things, like it's not actually moving the needle forward at all. So for Nate and I, we've spent a lot of time, effort, energy, money investing into better understanding ourselves individually and being able to understand our core wounds, our developmental period. Developmental psychology is so important. Most of your personality is completely formed before you're even 7 years old. And as an adult, 97% of your daily actions, you're just on autopilot. You're just reacting to what's been programmed. And 90% of that was programmed before you were even seven. So if you're completely unaware and you bring another person into that, then you're just going to be reacting off of each other. So being able to understand what your autopilot settings are, being able to understand what some of your core wounds are, what some of your shame messages are, what some of your deep needs are, being able to understand those things um, will help you be able to effectively communicate them. Because if you're just saying, like, oh, I'm really irritated with you, but like you don't even know why and you don't know what's going on, it's not effective communication. And neither is yelling. So being able to recognize, what trigger is being touched here, like what's going on, and being able to kind of narrate your experience, your own experience, is extremely helpful in being able to communicate. And then once you actually get to the communication process, being able to communicate without shaming each other. So if you come out and you're attacking and assuming what the other person is thinking or why they're doing what they're doing, you're immediately putting a wall up for them. They're then going to shut down and not actually open up, which is ultimately what you want. You want that connection, you want that resolution, but a lot of times if you're just speaking at each other, not to each other, then you're just firing shots over walls.
I mean, we've got to points in our relationship at times where I really don't even have anything to say because there have been walls that have been put up, and then I already assume that there's really no ground that could ever be taken or no sense of collaboration because we've had tension, right? And for you guys out there, I don't know if you've ever experienced that, but you almost feel as if you can't do anything. And I think it's important to recognize how you get to those points where you feel as if you're at a stalemate and you're not able to address any of the issues that you continue to grow in or can grow negatively in your relationship. So,
Yeah, and once you have that disconnect, so once one person feels threatened and they put walls up, then it starts to that creates a actual barrier, and then it starts to lead to a misunderstanding of what is actually going on. Like, oh, this person isn't interested in solving this, or they just don't care, and all these assumptions are made, but in reality, they're just kind of frozen behind their wall.
yeah. So you
And
said something there. There was assumptions, and assumptions are very similar to our third point, which is expectations. And I know that those can be created based on your previous experiences and the way that you have shaped your perception of the present, but also of the future, and of the lens that you see your life through is based on the past. So I know you love this stuff, so I'm going to kick it over to you to speak on perception and lens and how you structure your thoughts based on what your past has been.
yeah, I mean, first of all, expectations can fall into two clamps or two camps. Um, Number one is feeling like there are unreasonable demands, and number two is unclear roles. So if for example in a relationship I feel like I don't know what the heck is expected of me from you, then I'm constantly walking on eggshells trying to gain your approval. And the other side of it is unreasonable demands. If I feel what you expect of me is way too much,
Mm-hmm.
then I'm just going to distance myself and I'll create walls of hiding where I feel like I can't actually be myself. I can't fully be myself because you want perfection from me, and that's not realistic. So, having clear expectations of and this kind of goes into the vision of when we have a clear vision together, then both of us are enrolled in that. So the expectations then are attainable and make sense, right? Versus I'm just trying to fit into your world and I either don't measure up or I have no idea what the heck you want. And so both of those turn into kind of a negative relational response of it's called fawning, where you're micromanaging someone else's emotions and you're just like, you're basically just fondling their emotions. Are you okay? What do you need? What do you like? And then constantly just revolving around them rather than focus on being the best version of yourself. Like, and I feel like we've definitely come to that point too of being able to, like, hey, this is me, and not in a chip on my shoulder kind of way, like, oh, I'm going to be whoever I want to be. I don't care what you think or how you feel about it, but
Mm-hmm.
this is just me. But instead being like, hey, this is me, and getting those walls down, being open, like, this is where I struggle. This is where I'm strong. Like, these different things. These are my ambitions. These are my desires. Um, and when you can get back to that point, and I like to look at it as like when you can get back to that 6-year-old version of you, and like, what did that little kid, who was that, before life became stressful, before there were lots of people telling you no, before you had all these quote unquote failures, before all of that, who were you? And when you can get back to that same ambition, full of life, full of innocence, when you can get back to that version, then um, we can both just kind of be ourselves in the
Yeah.
relationship. So, yeah.
So some common expectations that can create conflict. I know, let's do, for example, if you have an expectation of me to be on time,
Oh,
right? And
that's
then,
a real one.
no, it really is. And honestly, it goes both ways, right? I expect you at times to be on time, right? So
I
it's not
know.
always.
We apparently have different clocks. Like when
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
you plan something, time is very important to you. When I plan something, time is very important to me. And yeah, we
And
definitely.
so that's a common expectation
Mhm.
within relationships as to, okay, listen, are we to be on time or are we to communicate, or so I think that's what can create a little bit of conflict within a relationship, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I mean that's just one example that I know that we've gone through. I don't know, you guys out there too have gone through it as well.
Yeah, I believe coming to a place of collaboration on expectations can help prevent conflicts because we're on the same page. It's not me versus you and guessing and
True.
trying to appease you or trying to, it's like, hey, can we agree on this?
Yeah, let's
And
agree.
and ultimately it really is just coming to a place of like every aspect of a relationship is coming to a place of honor and respecting each other. Like there's definitely going to be certain expectations that I have that you're like, I don't quite get it, but I respect you, so okay, and vice versa. But if it's always just about me, and like I don't understand why you need me to be there then and do that, then I'm just going to resist, right? But if I can understand, well, it makes sense to him, it's important to him, and so I'm going to respect that.
Yeah. No, I love that. Moving on to values and beliefs are super important, within your relationship, and I know those can create a lot of disagreements as well. And
This has been a big one for us for sure.
yeah,
Coming from two completely different backgrounds and two completely different like belief systems of because going back to again, those early years are your most impactful years of conditioning and where you grew up in a very safe, loving environment, and I necessarily didn't. It definitely more so early on in our relationship before we came to a place of like recognizing what was going on, but there were a lot of I would say a key word is resentment there, and lack of empathy and
yes,
understanding. Like I think I just felt like you were super ignorant and naive to certain things, and then like I just felt like there was such a lack of empathy on your
yeah.
part, and you're like, well,
Why doesn't she do this
yeah,
that way?
exactly.
You
And
know?
it shapes how we act, how we approach relationships, how we approach everything in our life. And again, when you understand these things and when you understand what has created who you are today, like it's not random.
Yeah.
It's literally your experiences early on, the interpersonal communication that you had early on, your influences early on. Like those things shaped your belief systems, your values, and you could just stay on that auto setting for the rest of your life and be a victim to everybody around you and expect everyone else to just work around you, or you could recognize what and understand what you're putting out into the world and how if you want something different, you need to create something different.
It's not about conforming, it's about understanding,
Mhm.
and that will transform your relationship.
Yeah, absolutely because um like you came from a real strong value system, right? And beliefs and everything. And I really didn't. Like I didn't have a whole lot of values or and like I didn't even know what I believed. And so when I felt yeah, early on and I just felt like you were like pushing all this stuff on me. Um and I felt like you were trying to create me into something with lack of empathy and understanding versus when I came to a place of realizing, like, man, in order for me to have peace in my life, I need to have a foundation.
Because many times and this goes without at times some people doing it intentionally, there is judgment that is felt,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And I know everyone has felt this before, but sometimes it can be difficult to deal with. It can be difficult to deal with somebody who is seemingly judging you based on who you are and how you got to the position where you are
Mm-hmm.
based on a decision that you didn't consciously make because of your past.
Yeah.
And that can be difficult to overcome, and that can create conflict in a
Yeah.
relationship.
And overall, like, that's strongly why I believe that every single couple needs to go through like just a deep deep dive of
Yes.
understanding who they are. Like it's so many people they're really just doing life completely confused, completely alone because they don't even understand themselves, so how are they going to actually connect with other people in an authentic real way? And when you actually take the time and energy and you dive into that and you face those things and you go through them and it's tough, but instead of just continuing to bury them and like run away and numb and that's definitely our culture, but instead of doing that, like addressing those things, then you can actually start to move forward from them rather than living in that narrative.
Yeah. So our next topic is power struggles.
Mhm.
Who has the power in the relationship is commonly discussed and at times not discussed because people just take the power.
Mm.
So let's talk a little bit about that and then we'll end out on our last one. But
Yeah, I feel
yeah,
like when it comes to power struggles, there's definitely this kind of goes back to the last one. If it's like, if there's literally no clear vision and agreed upon vision, mission for the relationship, for what we're doing with our life, for why we're together, where we're going, what we're trying to accomplish, then we're always going to just be fighting over the steering wheel, because I have my vision, you have yours, and if we don't have an alignment there, and this stuff takes time and
Hmm.
intention, you guys. You can't just be like, "Oh, what do you want out of life?" Like, like, we have very intentionally, like, gotten away from all distractions, gotten quiet, like, gotten to a place of like, "Hey, like, what do we actually want? Where do we go?" And when you come into that alignment, then all of a sudden you're on the same team. So it becomes easier to fluctuate in different roles, where you definitely have the reins in one role and all have the reins in another. And there's not this fighting over it because we don't know where we're going. And there's like a desperation of like, oh, we're going to run off the road. So like we're fighting over the steering wheel. But instead, it's like, hey, like, I'm going to just kind of let you have the wheel over here because you're going to crush it. And then vice versa. And we're able to flow back and forth a little better.
Check this out. So, if we are constantly fighting, does that mean we're on the same team?
No. Like, if you're on defense, then you're not on the same team.
Right? No, yeah, right. So just think about that, right?
Mhm.
If you're always fighting with somebody, then that means you're literally on the different team. Like there's
Yeah.
there's a separation,
Mhm.
and I feel like, yeah, if we can just
And you're also looking at each other, like if you're
in
if you're fighting,
competition.
yeah, you're like face to face, like focused on each other as your opponent, rather than when you're on the same team, you're shoulder to shoulder and you're conquering the real challenges.
So a good thing that you guys can do is just fight shoulder to shoulder against the common enemy or goal,
Yep.
however you look at it. And that is another a great nugget for you guys to take for your relationship. So moving on to the very last, and this is what commonly can create conflict within marriage, is your money problems or your money. And no matter how much you have, no matter how little you have, it's really just a matter of having specific standards, budgets, and the ability to know where you're going at all times within the relationship. So I know at times with us, we just didn't have a vision per se of what we wanted to accomplish as a collective or as a team. So then our goals weren't so aligned and, in our financial department,
Mhm.
and it didn't allow us to continue to grow in that area because we didn't have the direction that we needed.
Yeah. I mean, we have a whole podcast just on this topic of money and marriage, but absolutely, communication is extremely important. Having a common goal and vision of where we're even going, because, again, going back to what I've continued to say, is you're taking in belief systems from that were created in you based on where you started in life. You're taking those into where you go in life, right? And unconsciously, it's below your conscious level. You're not even thinking about it. It's just your autopilot setting. And when you have different experiences growing up, when you experience people handling money differently growing up, like for example, if one person's parents were like very structured with their budget, and they were very open about communication about money, and this is where things are going, and this is how much we have for the month, and this is like, and they were always planning versus reacting with their money and being like paycheck to paycheck or desperate, or they never talked about it and they're very impulsive with their spending. Like, you have two completely different things coming
Mm-hmm.
into the relationship. And just like with everything else, if those things are not addressed, if those things are not brought together into alignment of like, okay, this is what I experienced and then this is what you experienced, let's kind of come and figure out what we actually want to create in our life and in our legacy. Like, what do we
Yes.
want to teach our kids? Because if you're just going through life reacting, if you're just doing what was done and what you've seen, you're not going to get much further than what you grew up with, right? That's why so many people, and since we're on the money topic, that's why the majority of people never leave more than one income bracket of what they grew up with. So you don't see a whole lot of people that grew up in like lower class or even lower middle income or lower middle class. You don't see them like really coming out. Like there's such a small percentage that become wealthy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And make real generational change in that department. Same when it comes to health, like health patterns and how they take care of their health. So it takes very intentional decision making and living in order to change the trajectory, um, and coming into alignment with your spouse of understanding like, okay, like what did I experience early on in life? What did you experience? And then what do we want to create? Like, let's dream for a second, and then let's reverse engineer that and turn that into an actionable plan.
A plan, taking action, having that dream, and just working your way backwards to the goals that you guys have set is what you want to do and what you guys should do in your relationship. And that's what we want for you. We strongly encourage you to continue to use some of these techniques, tactics, and nuggets that we've shared today on the Power Couple Toolbox. And if you guys have enjoyed today's episode, feel free to share it with your friends and also subscribe to thepowercoupletoolbox.com. And once again, Lacey, you want to say bye-bye to everybody?
Bye-bye.